Hello everyone, this is Jacob here again. Today is not an episode actually of my favorite knives. It's just a knife that I don't care about nearly as much, but I felt like I would still give my thoughts on it because there really aren't that many reviews of it. So, what this is the Gerber Air Ranger. This is one of the newer models. From what I understand, there are some older models as well. A few minor differences, but overall they're mostly the same. The oldest version that I know of is made in Taiwan and uses the AUS-8 steel. Then there was one made in China with Gerber's 425 modified, also known as the Gerber Mystery Steel. And then this, being the newest one, also made in China, it uses 7CR17 MOV. So, again, I don't care where it's made as long as it's quality. I will say for the price, this is quality, but you could do better. So for me, it's just a cheap beater knife. But so on to the positives first. The action is very good for the price. And it just rides on, I want to say that they're white Teflon washers. Could just be nylon for all I know. But yeah, it just flies out with just a tiny bit of force. Very smooth. Again, for the price. I definitely have smoother knives in my collection. So, onto the handle. It is aluminum. Not sure if I can say that this is anodized or what. I don't know what kind of aluminum. I don't think it's T6. Not for the price. And it has this texturing on it that actually does provide a decent amount of grip. But I can say the handle does feel kind of cheap. It's not quite on the level of my Kershaw Leak, for example, that's for sure. You know, speaking of which, I'll be right back and I will bring my Leak out for a comparison on that. Okay guys, I'm back. Sorry. I guess that's the downside when you're doing these unscripted. But I would rather not use a script because I feel like, well, I feel like I can get my point across and speak my mind better if I'm doing this unscripted. But so, this is my Kershaw Leak. It's the OD green aluminum with the DLC coated blade. Probably be doing an episode on this in my favorite knives in the future. So I'm not going to go all that in depth with it, but I wanted to compare the differences with the handles. This one to me feels a bit more solid. This is T6 aircraft aluminum. I'm not going to say that the country of origin has anything to do with it because I have Chinese made knives that are better quality than this Gerber. But yes, this Leak is made in the US. The most prominent difference is the sound that they make when they open. The the thunk that the Gerber makes sounds kind of hollow, like any cheap aluminum handle. I do have another really cheap piece of crap aluminum handle knife flying around somewhere. It's like one of those not no-name brands, but really cheap brands nobody's heard of that has just made in Taiwan, just 440A and crappy aluminum handle. But I would put this above that. So get the Leak out of the way. And we'll talk about that in a later episode. So yeah, the handle does feel kind of cheap, but it is nice to have something different from the you know, the masses of what you have with handles, lots of black plastic and stuff like that. I like having something different, and so that's what I look for every time I get a new knife nowadays. Like different colors of G10 or carbon fiber and aluminum and stuff like that. Kind of sick of the black plastic trend. So the pocket clip, tip down right hand only. I do not mind that it's tip down only, especially because the pocket clip itself is actually very nice for the money. Nice and tight, not going to go anywhere. Nice and sturdy. Which, again, I really like it. And I don't mind tip down. I do prefer tip up, but tip down is not a deal breaker for me. One thing that always baffles me, though, is why do they put a lanyard hole on a knife that is tip down only? Because I always use the lanyard as something like, if a knife has one of those crappy deep carry pocket clips, so I can't hardly get the damn thing out of my pocket, I'll have the lanyard as something to grab onto. But as you can see, it's kind of useless in this case. But on the subject of deep carry, again, I like how this clip rides, because it doesn't stick out like crazy, but it's not super deep carry, so I have something to grab onto. I do wish more pocket clips were like this, regardless of whether they were tip up or tip down. So the hardware is just silver. I haven't really fiddled with it too much, but I can tell you that it is like the softer hardware and probably strip pretty easily if you weren't careful. I do like the look of the pivot though. Onto the blade. Like I said, it is 7CR 17 MOV, which is basically 440A. Not a big fan of the steel. It doesn't hold an edge very well. Easy to sharpen, but like I said, loses it pretty quickly under hard use, or even just like daily use. You might have to sharpen it every couple days, or again, just depends. I haven't had to sharpen it all that much because I haven't used it too much, but yeah, I do really like the shape of the blade. This drop point with this wedge, very nice looking. Does have a hollow grind, which I generally prefer over full flat grinds, but these hollow grinds are kind of low. They don't like. I prefer the hollow grind to cover more of the blade, but they had to get their logo on there, and they didn't want that interrupted. So, yeah. Just got your model number on the other side. So the blade is partially serrated, not something that I'm a big fan of. If a blade is going to be partially serrated, I would prefer that this portion of the blade be serrated instead, and this portion be plain. So you have the plain edge for the detail work, and then for like rough cutting, you could go with what's on the tip. Like my Victorinox one-handed trekker is a good example of that. Also, the serrations are chisel grounded on the wrong side for a right-handed knife, which is stupid, because the pocket clip means that this knife is pretty much right hand only. But the serrations favor a lefty, which is just really stupid. I hate how companies keep grinding their serrations on this side. Like pretty much every company does it. Spyderco, Kershaw, Gerber, Emerson. You're all guilty of this. You should all be ashamed. Like, the only company I've ever seen get that right is Victorinox. I'm sure that there are others, but you know, Victorinox is the only one that's done a partially serrated or chisel ground blade that I've liked. That's kind of sad, but it is what it is. So the thumb studs are how this blade deploys. They are pretty easy to use, nice and big. They're not oddly shaped or anything like that. Easy to grip onto them and just fling the blade out. The logo is laser etched on there. Not as crazy as some of their previous logos. I like the simplicity of it, but yeah. The finish is a bead blast, which does make it more prone to rust. There are a few like speckles and whatnot on it. Even when a steel is not particularly susceptible to rust, like 440A is fairly corrosion resistant, but you bead blast pretty much anything and it'll probably rust. Just opens up the pores to it. It's just not a big fan of it. So, the knife itself is designed by William Harsey Jr., I believe is his full name. I do not know that much about him and his designs, but I know that he's pretty well regarded. And after this video, I'm probably going to look into that more. Got a fairly decent size SOP pin for what it is. Is a liner lock. Locks up fairly late now that it's worn in, but there's no real play. What it is it's a bit of lock slip, like some of these cheaper knives will do. Like you can get the liner to go over. It's not going to fail though. I've tested it. I'm not too worried about that, and I'm probably not going to use this knife too hard without gloves. But because this is the cheap beater knife for me, that's what I'll use it as. See, the jimping and the thumb ramp, like, I do think it's nice that they put that into consideration. I don't require jimping personally, but I know a lot of people are into that. This jimping is not very aggressive, so that may be a bad thing to some people. A lot of the time, I'll just choke up and completely ignore the jimping for whenever I'm using it, so not like it really matters anyway. I do wish that Gerber would make a higher end version of this knife, say like CPM 154 blade steel, like all plain edge, and then like the option for either like carbon fiber handle scales with steel liners or all titanium handles with a frame lock. I feel like if Gerber is listening, and if they were to do that, I feel like they would make quite a bit of money, because I do really love the design of this knife. I just think that the execution is kind of One thing I forgot to mention is the fit and finish. I'd say the fit is good for what you can expect for a $20 knife, but the finish is a bit lacking. You got all this discoloration on the handle. It came like this right out of the package, and it's kind of annoyed me. But I guess with a knife that I'm just going to beat the crap out of and not really care about all that much. It's no big deal. It's just kind of a cheapo knife. That's really all I have to say, but before I cut the video off, if you're actually the kind of masochist that enjoys my terrible videos, well, thank you, but you'll have noticed that the background is different this time. I'm using this denim jacket. Wanted to see how that contrasted with just the wood of my coffee table, because there seemed to be a glare in all the videos because of the because of the lacquer finish that I had over the coffee table. I made this table, by the way. Yeah, shameless ego trip. but yeah, so if any of you actually care, I would like some feedback on what you prefer, this background or just the rustic maple on my coffee table. I would appreciate that. So again, nothing else to say really, so sorry this video dragged on longer than I hoped it would. So See you guys next time.